Hello, this is Dr. Mears, and today we are going to be solving trigonometric equations, and this is part 1. Here are some steps. We don't really need to use these necessarily in this order, but just some things to remember. So first, we're going to notice whether the examples are in degrees or they're in radians. You may have to press mode to change it. I'm going to be doing that today. Use inverse operations. Don't forget, you're going to have to hit your second key on your calculator. Find the quadrants where your answers will lie, see below. So we're going to have multiple answers here, and it's going to depend on if our answer is positive or negative. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. But here's a quick little lookup. If you need a quick lookup, I provided it for you. So such as cosine is positive in the first quadrant, sine is positive, and tangent is positive, and then it tells you all the other ones. And whether we're going to be adding or subtracting 180 to 360, that is going to depend on where our answers lie on these quadrants. All right, let's get to some examples. Number 1, solve each equation for 0 is less than or equal to theta, which is less than or equal to 360 degrees, giving your answers to one decimal place when necessary. Okay, so first we have to take our calculator and we have to make sure that we are in degrees. So I'm going to press mode. Mode is right here. The black box should be around degrees. If it's not, we're just going to go down there, put the black box on there, and press enter, and we should be all set. Next, what we're going to do is we are going to notice what quadrants our answers are going to have to be in. So I'm going to set this up. And how we do that is we locate this number, the number that's by itself that we have to get the angle measurements for. This is 0.5. So this number right here is a positive number. This is positive. So that means that we're going to have to locate where sine is positive. Okay, so we know sine is positive in the first quadrant, sine is positive in the second. So our answers are going to be in the first quadrant and the second quadrant. So our answers are going to be between 0 and 90, and then between 90 and 180 degrees. Okay, so we're going to have to take the inverse. Oops. So theta equals inverse sine of 0.5. So theta equals, let's get out our calculators. We're going to press second sine, that's how we get the inverse, 0.5, and enter, and that gives us 30 degrees. Yay! All right, so 30 degrees is in quadrant 1. It's right here. And if you don't know your quadrants, I will quickly put them in. This is Q1, this is Q2, this is Q3, and this is quadrant 4. Okay, so 30 degrees is in quadrant 1. It is between 0 and 90. We now need to get an answer between 90 and 180. How we do that is we're going to subtract 180 minus 30, and you will quickly find out that that is 150 degrees, which does lie in the second quadrant. So we have both of those answers. So we're all set. These two are answers, 30 and 150. Okay, let's go see for cosine. So let's set up our little chart here. All right, so we notice this 0.43 is positive, so we want to find the quadrants where cosine is positive. So we go back up here. We see cosine is positive in quadrant 1. Cosine is positive in quadrant 4. So here and here. So we're going to need answers between 0 and 90 degrees. And then we go around, no answers here, no answers here. This is 270, and then we're back at 360 degrees. Okay, so we're going to need 0 degrees. We're going to need answers between 0 and 90 and between 270 and 360. All right, let's see what happens. So theta equals inverse cosine of 0.43, taking out our calculators. Inverse cosine of 0.43. That gives us 64.5. We do have to round now, so they said when necessary, 64.5 degrees. That's nice because that one gives us our quadrant 1 angle measurement. Now we have to find our quadrant 4 angle measurement, so it's going to be pretty big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 360 minus 45. Now, if you don't know, should I add or should I subtract? Well, just try it out. So, you're like, oh, I'm going to subtract 360. Let's see if it lands us in that fourth quadrant. And it does. Yay. So 295 is in that fourth quadrant. So this is 295.5 degrees. And I'm done. Check and check. Okay. Let's look at tangent. So let's draw this tangent. All right, so that we see that this answer is negative. So we're going to be looking to see what quadrant tangent is negative. So let's see. So we see quadrant 2 tangent is negative, and quadrant 4 tangent is negative. Okay, so we're going to need measurements between 90 and 180. And 270 with 360. Okay, so those are the two quadrants, this quadrant and this quadrant. All right, so let's go find that. So we're going to do inverse tangent of negative 0.76. Be careful of those negatives, don't miss it. Clear this out. Inverse tangent, negative 0.76. And remember, the negative button is all the way down here, so it'll probably give you an error if you don't use that. And we got negative 37.2. Negative 37.2. Now, we can't have negative angle measurements, okay? We have to have positive ones, and we have to have them between 0 and 360. That's why this is here. You need to use this. So we're going to have to do some adding and subtracting of 360 and 180. So I need it here. I need it in this quadrant. So I think what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do my little work over here, by the way. Let's do 180 plus that negative 37.2. Let's do that. So 180 plus negative, whoops, and enter. Ooh, 142. Whoops, I'm so sorry. That is all messed up. So 180 plus a negative 37.2 gives us 142. Oh, that's perfect. 142.8 degrees. That does lie in the second quadrant. So we have 142.8 degrees. All right, now we need it in the fourth quadrant. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do the same thing, but with 360. Let's see what happens. Okay, so 360, can you see my calculator? Yes, plus negative 37.2, and that could, yes, yay, 322.8. So this gives us 322.8 degrees. That is between 270 and 360 here, so I did meet that, so 322.8 degrees. Okay, so sometimes you might get the angle measurement and it's not perfect like these two were, and it's negative, so we can't do that. So you do have some playing around with the numbers to locate them in the proper quadrants. Okay, I think we have two more, and these are some nice charts and drawings that I have for you. All right, so we're going to solve each equation for 0 is less than or equal to theta, which is less than or equal to 2 pi. So now we're in pi radians. And we're giving our answers to 3 significant figures, which is great because we can, instead of saying 2 pi, we're going to be able to use 0 is less than or equal to theta, which is less than or equal to 6.28, because we need 3 significant figures. So that's great. All right, so note, now we're going to be adding or subtracting 3.14 or 6.28. So those are our magic numbers because we are in radians. So this chart just shows you the degrees, the exact value for the radians, and then the decimal approximation. So for 90 degrees, we would write the exact value as pi over 2, but in decimal radians, it's 1.57. For 180, it would be pi, but and then decimal radians is 3.14, 270, 3 pi over 2, 4.17, and 360, 2 pi, and 6.28. And where are they located on our graph? And that's this one right here. Yay. So here's 0, and then here, this was our 90 degrees, which I did put the pi radians in decimal. This would be 180 degrees, but here now pi radians in decimal, and this would be our 270 degrees. So this is nice for locating where we need our answers. Okay, so part A, cosine of positive 0.77. So we need to find where cosine is going to be positive. So cosine is going to be positive in the first and in the fourth quadrant. And you can use that previous page to help you out. So we know our answers are going to be between 0 and now 1.57, and it's going to be 4.71 and 6.28, okay? So these really do help. All right, let's do inverse cosine of 0.77 and see what happens. Now, calculator. We were working with, you're right, degrees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press mode. I don't want degrees. I now want radians. So that's what I have to change. I press enter on radians and I'm all set. In order to quit out, I'm going to press second mode and I quit out. Okay, now I'm ready to go. I am in radians. So just to make a note, I did mode, radians, and then I did enter. Okay. All right, so let's do inverse cosine of 0.77. Enter. I get 0.693 significant figures, 0.692, everybody. Okay, 0.692 is between 0 and 1.57, so I'm good. I got that first quadrant. Now I need this one down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 6.28 minus 0.692. Let's see if that leads us in there. So 6.28 minus 0.692. That gives us 5.588. So I'm just going to round that to 5.59. 5.59, everybody. And that is between 4.71 and 6.28. So that is in between there. So I'm good with those. Yay. All right, and our last one for today, sine of negative 0.23. So now we need where sine is negative, and sine is going to be negative in your don't write that. Okay, in your third quadrant and in your fourth quadrant. That's where sine is negative. So our answers are going to be between 3.14, 4.71, and 6.28. So those where our answers are going to lie. So let's go and do that. We're going to do the inverse sine of negative 0.23. Get our calculators out. Inverse sine of negative 0.23. Negative 0.23, I'm going to round that to 2. Negative 0.232. Negative 0.232. Now remember, we have to be between 0 and 6.28, inclusive of 0 and 6.28. So that means that I can't have this negative angle measurement. So we're going to have to work with it a little bit. So the first, I want between 3.14 and 4.71. So I think you're able to see this. I think you're going to do 3.14. And so what I'm going to do is minus that negative, because what this will do is change this. So I'll be adding it because I need it bigger than 3.14. So I minused it, or you could just add it. Yeah, added the opposite. So let's 3.14 plus 0.232, 3.372. I'm going to round this to 3.37, 3.37. Perfect. And now, so I got that one, and now I need it less than 6.28, but greater than 4.71, so I need it here. So I think what I'm going to do is just do 6.28. I'm going to add that negative because that will subtract it for me. So it is just the manipulation of the numbers. You're using these two same numbers and the answer, and you're manipulating it to get it where you want it to go. So 6.28 plus a negative 0.232. That's really, you can do 6.28 minus 0.232. Either one works, everybody. Either one works. I like the second one. I just like minusing it, but I didn't want to confuse you. I wanted to show you that you can use that negative one. But it is the same exact answer, everybody. All right, so it's 6.048. 6.048. And this is three significant figures, 1, 2, 3. We don't count that one. That's just a placeholder. So I don't need that. Actually, you know what? Let's just write these in. 3.37 and 6.048. There we go. And 6.048 is in that fourth quadrant. It's in between these two numbers. So I got my two answers. Okay, this has been Dr. Mears, Solving Trigonometric Equation, Part 1. Hope it helped.